That's not what I read. The true sign of the apocalypse is someone that dumb has a law degree. Worse, if your name has the word sun in it, there's no excuse for not knowing how an eclipse works. But it's no surprise that Joy is the one who understands science. She's been on the science diet for years.
Oh no, nothing really comes to mind. I was like, Shijing, listen, they're bitter, they're angry, they're entitled. They also should be, this should have been a reset for everyone who pushed lies and misinformation for the last, they call them Hitler, they call these things, America rejected them. And instead of coming back and saying, we lied, they instead are now doubling down. So let her keep doing it, because if she keeps that up, we're going to keep getting the Senate and probably the House and the White House, because people see right through your lies. So keep doing what you're doing. Game ball to Sunny.
Sunny Hostin found herself absolutely torched by Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus in a moment so brutal it felt like reality itself was putting her on trial. What began as a routine, self-assured Hot Topic exchange spiraled into a shocking on-air unraveling no one saw coming. Gutfeld came armed with razor-sharp sarcasm, Tyrus backed it up with hard receipts, and Sunny's responses only accelerated the collapse, sending the entire segment into chaos. Daytime TV hasn't felt this unsafe in a long time. This takedown landed with such force, it felt like it could shatter the table at The View. Buckle up, because this breakdown gets intense fast.
Hostin's obsession with race gets thrown back in her face. Today's video comes to us from sunny Hostin. Sounds like a town. We're in sunny Hostin. She was on PBS's Finding Your Roots, a show dedicated to researching celebrity ancestry. For context, Sunny is a staunch supporter of reparations and has made a fortune spewing nonsense about white privilege and racial justice. Well, turns out she's not as oppressed as she claims she is. She's actually the descendant of slave owners from Europe.
If you like this takedown, don't forget to hit subscribe button. Sunny Hostin took her usual seat at the table, wrapped in polished Chanel and unmistakable righteous indignation, clearly ready to deliver yet another dramatic lecture, as if she were tenured faculty at some imaginary woke university. But instead of applause, she ran headfirst into a buzzsaw of blunt, unfiltered reality, delivered by Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus from an entirely different studio, which somehow made the hit land even harder. One moment she spoke with total certainty, treating her opinion like unquestionable truth, and the next the internet had transformed her extended monologue into a viral meme dubbed "When Delusion Meets Data." It was a brutal reminder of how quickly confidence collapses when it collides with actual substance. This wasn't The View anymore. It turned into a full-scale roast, and Sunny stepped into it without a hint of protection as the temperature shot through the roof.
Wow. I'm a little bit in shock. I just always thought of myself as Puerto Rican, you know, half Puerto Rican. I didn't think I was, my family was originally from Spain and slaveholders.
Yeah. So how are you feeling, my friend?
I think it's actually pretty interesting that my husband and I have shared roots.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that.
Gutfeld didn't even need to be in the same building to dismantle her argument. One viral moment, razor-sharp logic, and a dose of sarcasm were enough to slice straight through her talking points. Tyrus, meanwhile, never raised his voice. He simply raised the stakes, calmly laying out facts so effectively it felt like watching someone place dynamite beneath a paper house. As Sunny wagged her finger from her daytime throne, Tyrus produced receipts that made her entire narrative look thin enough to rip on contact. And this wasn't even the first time she's treated her seat on The View like an unsolicited confessional, delivering monologues as if she's chronicling the collapse of society one brunch conversation at a time. She once went so far as to suggest that certain voters of color couldn't truly grasp their own political views unless those views conveniently aligned with hers, positioning herself as the self-appointed gatekeeper of what qualifies as a valid opinion.
Sure, all that, and the price of butter. Sunny gets the game ball. If it wasn't for her, if it wasn't for her asking that question, it might have been a closer election. But when oh no, nothing really comes to mind. I was like, Shijing, listen, they're bitter, they're angry, they're entitled. They also should be, this should have been a reset for everyone who pushed lies and misinformation for the last, they call them Hitler, they call these things, America rejected them. And instead of coming back and saying, we lied, They instead are now doubling down.
In that version of reality, disagreement doesn't signal independent thought. It means you're confused, misled, or somehow unworthy of entry into her imaginary inner circle. But when someone spends too long perched on a moral high horse, the footing eventually starts to shake, and sooner or later, someone kicks the supports out from underneath it. That's exactly what Gutfeld and Tyrus pulled off without ever stepping onto the set, launching uncomfortable truths from afar, while Sunny reacted like someone who showed up to a chainsaw fight armed with a foam bat. What made the moment truly surreal was how fast the entire show seemed to buckle under pressure, as if the studio lights dimmed, the instant reality crept in. Yet the co-hosts clung to their script like backup performers in a musical called Delusion.
Their brains are small. But who's the dumbest one of all? True, none of them are in Mensa, but who's the most densa? Perhaps it's Sunny who mastered the art of making idiots look smart. Now, The View could ask a mirror who's the dumbest one of all, but there's no way that glass doesn't shatter. So instead, let's check out this clip from Monday's episode of The View when the ladies put their science caps on and discuss the solar eclipse.
Desperately keeping the routine alive, Whoopi offered a grave, ceremonial nod. Ana Navarro let out a dramatic sigh like she'd just witnessed the downfall of civilization, and Joy Behar tilted her head with the polite curiosity of someone pretending to listen while mentally deciding what to order for lunch. That's the strange alchemy of The View, not a debate panel, but a tightly choreographed routine where agreement is mandatory, dissent is treated like a contagion, and inconvenient facts are quietly stashed away like forbidden items. Watch closely and you'll see it every time. Sunny veers wildly off course, and the others respond with the eager patience of golden retrievers awaiting treats, nodding in near-perfect unison as if a metronome were ticking behind the cameras. When the narrative starts to unravel, the show instantly swerves toward emotional appeals, dramatic victimhood, or a conveniently unrelated headline meant to distract the audience just long enough to regain balance. If criticism lands too hard, out come the cries of misinformation, the buzzwords like dangerous rhetoric, and a layer of passive-aggressive elitism to gloss it all over. But this time, the collapse was too big, too obvious, and far too loud to bury.
No, nothing really comes to mind. I was like, shit-ching. Listen, they're bitter, they're angry, they're entitled. They also should be, this should have been a reset for everyone who pushed lies and misinformation for the last, they call them Hitler, they call these things, America rejected them. And instead of coming back and saying, we lied, they instead are now doubling down. So let her keep doing it, because if she keeps that up, we're going to keep getting the Senate and probably the House and the White House, because people see right through your lies. So keep doing what you're doing. Game ball to Sunny.
Because Gutfeld and Tyrus didn't bother playing by the peculiar daytime rules of The View, they entered the conversation from the five with the ease of a comedy tag team armed with common sense and cultural awareness, dropping reality checks so casually it felt more like gentle reminders than full-on demolition. There was no yelling, no theatrical flailing, just calm, deliberate precision that cut straight through Sunny's talking points, while she reacted like someone frantically trying to bat facts out of the air before they could land. And nothing is quite as satisfying as watching someone who built a career on long, applause-fed monologues suddenly collide with dead silence, the kind that exposes every weakness all at once. Sunny will, of course, be back at that table tomorrow with a fresh angle, another extended speech, and the same familiar glare, but moments like that don't just fade away, they linger. When a reality check hits that hard, you don't bounce back, you simmer. That's exactly how the panel drifted towards self-destruction, as what should have been another predictable blame the world segment transformed into unexpected comedic gold the instant Gutfeld and Tyrus metaphorically stepped in and ignited the entire argument with a single spark of logic no one on set was ready to handle.
I think that women, white women in particular, want to protect the patriarchy here because it's to their benefit. Yeah. They want to make sure that their husbands do well. They want to make sure that their sons do well. They want to make sure that their children do well. And they want to make sure that they do well. Most of the women in some of these studies are married white women, and they do fall in line with what their husbands are doing.
People have to wonder, where does Sunny Hostin get her opinions? Yeah. Like you said, it's obviously from her husband. She has to tell her what to say on The View, because without it, she's got nothing up there. She's not very bright. So, but the problem with her is that she went full racist.
The topic was crime and policing in America, an issue Sunny approached with the same fiery intensity she usually reserves for lukewarm lattes or a bad Yelp review, launching into what felt like an emotional TED Talk aimed at the theatrically inclined. Between heavy sighs, sharp finger-pointing, and sweeping declarations, she framed policing as the source of all wrongdoing, crime as a misunderstood form of expression, and the real problem as a world that simply wasn't listening to her closely enough. It was classic Sunny, overflowing with moral passion, but light on data, delivered with the unshakable confidence of someone who treats a trending hashtag like settled public policy. Then Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus stepped in, uninvited, unimpressed, and far better prepared, responding calmly with actual numbers and just enough sarcasm to dismantle her argument on the spot. Gutfeld kicked things off by pointing out how the loudest advocates of defund the police often live farthest from the communities that rely on policing the most, enjoying private security while suggesting working-class neighborhoods experiment without backup. The effect was immediate. Sunny blinked like someone suddenly asked to explain their Wi-Fi password on live television. The room didn't just lose momentum in that moment, it lost the entire script as her argument visibly deflated in real time.
It's not even that. And The View, you don't need to find Trumpers. You need to fire your race baiters.
Yeah.
You need to fire the two races. You've had people. You had a McCain on there. You've had people on there before, and you ran them off. So the racist ones who want to stick to this, Whoopi and Sunny, and the, was it Bette Midler? What's her name? Yeah, broke-ass Bette Midler. Fire them and bring people in. Maybe you could get McCain to come back. She was a Republican, but
Tyrus followed up with a measured, unhurried breakdown packed with statistics, laying out violent crime trends in cities that embrace defunding policies while casually pointing out the hypocrisy of celebrities who praise community-based safety right before hiring off-duty police for their own protection. His delivery was almost bored, like someone reciting facts he's explained 1,000 times to people who nod politely and forget them the moment a new trend pops up on TikTok. Then Greg delivered the knockout, a single line that didn't just land, it detonated, instantly shifting the mood on The View from heated debate to full-blown damage control. Sunny scrambled to pivot with Olympic-level mental gymnastics, tossing out vague talking points and hoping no one would notice her argument going up in flames on live television. But the internet noticed immediately, and so did the ratings. That's when Tyrus, the calm storm, dropped one last reality check that shattered whatever defenses remained, proving he didn't need volume or theatrics. He simply delivered facts with quiet precision, leaving the show struggling to regain its footing. He laid out his points with a street-level clarity that only comes from experiencing real life without the polished filter of media privilege.
the problem is that you have to go after the racist people. And if the CEO goes, you know what, I'm not going to allow a woman on my show or man that will go after white America and talk about them like dogs. That doesn't represent our ideals or values for anyone. And get rid of those people, and this will clear up real quick. So do you have to actually look in the mirror and clean up your own backyard and get the racist people out? Because that's who you allowed in. You allowed black racist on TV who could just go all day and say anything about white people. And I guess lo and behold, they forgot that there's a lot of people at home, white people at home during the day that are not watching your show anymore. So just clean it up.
Yeah, you know, Emily.
Creating a contrast so sharp it practically rattled the room. This wasn't rehearsed rhetoric refined under studio lights or crafted to impress an applauding audience. It was blunt truth delivered with firm, no-nonsense logic that hit far harder than Sunny anticipated. Tyrus went straight for the pressure points, not just challenging her ideology, but exposing the privilege she and so many media elites hide behind while claiming to speak for people they barely understand. While Sunny positioned herself as the voice of the oppressed, Tyrus brought the conversation crashing back to reality, reminding everyone that she has about as much in common with the average working-class person as she does with a reality TV celebrity, and that no one in the trenches feels represented by someone whose biggest struggle is scheduling brunch with Ana Navarro. He delivered it almost casually, which made it sting even more, turning it into the kind of truth that forces a total rethink, especially when it's coming from someone in a plain tee, while the other side tries to wear moral superiority like a billowing cape. Sunny's response was pure silence, dead air, as she scrambled internally for anything that might salvage her dignity, while Joy Behar quietly muttered what felt like an unspoken abort mission from the sidelines, a signal no one dared to challenge.
Sausage maker Johnsonville is recalling more than 42,000 pounds of pork sausage for possible contamination with plastic fibers. Fortunately, authorities were able to track all 42,000 pounds to a single location in New York City.
And the moment the facts started landing harder than Sunny anticipated, she reached for the familiar escape hatch, instantly shifting from confident intellectual authority to a self-declared victim of hostility, as if she were being unfairly targeted rather than directly confronted with her own contradictions. As soon as Tyrus and Greg delivered their fact-based reality checks, Sunny morphed into the kind of person who starts a confrontation and then cries foul the second someone pushes back, accusing others of being inflammatory despite having stoked the flames long before they spoke. The reality was simple. She had already set the stage on fire while pretending to calmly observe from the sidelines, comfortable throwing punches only when she believed none would be returned. Her posture of moral superiority collapsed the instant she was told she was standing on quicksand instead of solid ground. And you could almost hear the internal panic. Wait, I was supposed to be the one lecturing.
So that makes Sunny Hostin, who thinks climate change caused the solar eclipse, the dumbest of them all. Because everyone knows the moon caused the eclipse, which is controlled by the view's gravitational pull.
How did this flip on me? The irony was impossible to miss. The second the conversation became too real, debate was replaced with victimhood, leaving the same person who routinely scolds others for lacking empathy suddenly claiming she was under attack. A dramatic reversal that stunned everyone watching. And then there was the audience. The stunned, bewildered crowd caught in the middle of a live TV derailment, unsure whether to applaud, laugh, or duck for cover as the segment spiraled out of control. Predictably, social media exploded within minutes, turning Sunny's unraveling into the latest viral meme as the internet did what it does best: roast the powerful, the privileged, and the overly confident until the moment is etched into digital history. In an instant, Sunny stopped being just a co-host having a rough day and became a symbol of how quickly a fortress of self-righteousness can crumble when it collides with real substance instead of applause. After a collapse that public, you might expect the View to acknowledge it.
Of this, will she continue to do that when she is now one of them, Dana? And it is funny, she is so wrapped up in identity and she had no idea who she was.
Maybe even pause for a moment of reflection, but instead they reached for their favorite tactic: total denial. The very next episode opened like nothing had happened, cheerfully pivoting to a segment about dogs doing yoga, as if a flexible puppy could erase the meltdown viewers had just witnessed. With flawless nonchalance, they slid from Sunny's tense breakdown straight into celebrity gossip, offering zero acknowledgement, zero accountability, and a level of gaslighting so smooth it could qualify as an Olympic event. It's remarkable how effortlessly that illusion is maintained, and even more exhausting to imagine pulling it off while claiming authority on absolutely everything. But here's why it all actually matters. The show stands as one of the loudest examples of a media echo chamber, a place where confident panelists sit comfortably, applauding one another for opinions driven more by emotion than evidence, in an environment where disagreement is treated as a threat instead of an opportunity for real discussion. Gutfeld and Tyrus didn't just roast Sunny, they exposed the entire style of commentary the show depends on, highlighting how disconnected it can become when people claim to speak for the working class from the safety of a plush studio far removed from the realities they pretend to understand. Sunny's unraveling wasn't just a personal stumble, it became a public reminder that arrogance and lengthy emotional monologues can't drown out the truth forever, no matter how passionately they're delivered. Looking back, the pattern is unmistakable. Sunny opened with smug certainty, Gutfeld calmly dismantled her position with facts, Tyrus followed with even harder hitting realities, and Sunny retreated into a tangle of word salad that couldn't mask how badly the exchange had gone. In the end, it felt almost poetic, because in the ongoing clash between reality and the show's carefully protected bubble, reality finally claimed a moment of airtime, and it was undeniably satisfying.